All right, welcome back to another Fake Nerds Watch for The Last of Us. We're doing episode 2, Infected, and we're gonna find out just how much do we love the idea of frilly tentacles entering our mouths here today. And I am Sparkz Woody, and of course I'm joined as always by Ryan Eliopoulos.
What's up? I'm clicking heads and ripping them to shreds.
And for this fantastic series, special guest Phai, friend of our show, is here with us once again.
It's me. I'm Phai. How are we doing?
Great. So better than the characters in The Last of Us.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a given. The show just wouldn't be done right if that wasn't true.
Yeah.
So we'll just dive in once again. Some just like broad notes. If you weren't here with us for the first episode, you should definitely check that out. But also, if you're coming to the show and you haven't played the video game, no worries. We're not going to talk about video game spoilers.
That's in the back half.
We might make light allusions.
Yeah.
But we will not reveal anything.
Yeah.
That will be at the end. We'll let you know when we're going to do that. Otherwise, we will only be talking about the stuff that's happening in the show.
This is a TV show, baby.
So, because there's a massive audience that is just watching the show.
Yeah.
3 people who live in this house have not played the game and are watching the show.
It's true.
All right. So we will just dive in. Phai, let's start with you. What did you think of the second episode?
Again, still, there have not been any changes that I do not hate. And they are still following the story of the game verbatim.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Me too. I want to follow that up with curiosity. Have you listened to the official companion podcast yet for this series?
Not yet. Have you?
Okay. Have you?
I have now started. Yes.
Okay, yes, okay. I've listened to both episodes for that. I brought that up because I want to talk about like some of the changes they made and how they're talking about them and why they came to them, which I think is really interesting. But first, let's get your reactions to the episode.
Loved it. I really, really liked that first episode. And then as soon as I saw it was directed by Neil Druckmann, who is the director of the game, which I don't know if anything like this has ever happened before of this capacity. Somebody getting that upgrade like this. But like having the creator involved, having like Craig Mazin writing it, having the team from Chernobyl produce it, like it's a great television show first and foremost. Like it just helps that it's in the nerdy capacity that we get to talk about it. But first and foremost, it's still just a great show. It looks great, sounds great, like the acting's great. It looks like they're actually in the apocalypse, like some really great shots.
A lot of sound stages.
Yeah. It looks like practical shit, like the clickers, like that's just that is from the games. That's just them, baby.
So this was I know now. I highly recommend people listen to the official companion podcast. I know now this was a little over 200 days of shooting.
That's a grueling long shoot.
Which is why there's so many soundstage sets, because they're constantly building sets for so many pieces of this. I also love the episode. I thought it was great. Very, very pleased with the show.
Great tension.
Really, really loving it. I think they're doing an incredible job. I echo what Phai said. Any change that's been made from the game, I think, has been made for the better of the adaptation.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want. For those who haven't listened to the companion show, I highly recommend it. I want to bring up that a lot of the changes that have happened in the terms of adapting is because Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann had this concept of the theme of the show is about love, that this is a love story, and not a romantic love story, but a love story. And it's more than just Joel and Ellie, but it is also supposed to be about the bad side of love. And they said what they really wanted to explore is that we always think of love as a good thing, but love can be a bad thing. Love can turn into a primal thing.
It can be toxic.
It can be toxic, and that the cordyceps also represent a love and a community that they have connected to each other.
That's their entire thing, is they just want to spread love. They just want to spread themselves to everyone possible.
And I thought that was such a fascinating
Mormons are back.
interpretation of what they're doing. This idea of we want the show to kind of be a reflection on when love can go the wrong way.
Yeah. And to add on to what some of the changes, in the game, they're just like zombies, right? Except they're mushroom people. And to have this be they are a living organism. They are connected. There are roots growing in the ground. You step on one vine, and somewhere a mile away, infected will rise up and come to find you. I think that is such a incredibly cool idea. and we were very briefly talking about something in the comments talking about like Mother Nature like rising up against you. And there's like no better example of like Mother Nature like like creating like an exact organism. Like, yo, show me where these people are, and I'm gonna get them. Don't worry, we'll get them. It's just like it's adding on to a great idea without like detracting or taking away from it. It's just building on top of it. It's like great improv. And yeah, again, like you said, like every change is, I think, almost for the better. Because like when you have to take away half the gameplay, all the gameplay stuff again, like we talked about last week at the spores, like I understand not wanting your characters to wear gas masks the entire time. Like all these changes make sense, and they're just like furthering the world building too, especially for a TV show where you can show this stuff. And man, it just looks so good. Like all the practical like spores and fungi growing on the buildings and stuff, and like we're just at HBO has so much money. Like I don't know what's real and what's not at half the time. Like obviously I know the giant buildings aren't real, but like there are so many sets. I'm like, I honestly don't know sometimes what's real and what's not because it looks so good. And that's like one of the great things about like great pre-production, great set design, great world design. Yeah,
honestly, you could probably just take the 3D models from the game and just
there's definitely specifically the museum with the clickers. That's just like, yo, man, that's
I've been there.
I've been there.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean that's in Boston. That's a real place.
That's true. I'm so stupid. Of course it is. Like I keep thinking that this is the real world that we're living in. Yeah, like that is just like they can just replicate that place exactly. That's so true. Yeah.
But it's still so easy, even in replicating like a real place, let alone a video game adaptation of a place.
Yeah.
To
like the hotel.
To not make it feel the same.
Yeah.
And I think they've done an incredible job of mimicking both our real world and what the video game gave us before, to the point where like the video game did a really good job, but like making this feel like it is our world in a way, but also catering to us as fans of the game and saying like, wow, I really remember being in this place.
Because again, like you brought up the great point of last time or last episode of like we're not in control, or maybe it was I said somebody said that we're like it's a different perspective because like we're not in control of Joel, we're watching Joel do things, right? So like that museum sequence, we all played that sequence differently, right? So we might have not seen the same things that we each other saw, but like this specific view, like I know this is a museum. Like if you're not paying attention in that game, maybe you don't realize it because you're running away, you're so scared, and it's just like. It's such good attention to detail, and it's like also very spooky to be like hiding in like the ruins of a museum, which is the ruins of previous history. It's just fun layer. It's like an onion.
Because you just brought up that because you just brought up that comment on us not being in control. I want to piggyback off that for them talking about how they constructed the opening of the episode, which is where we pick up with Ellie in the morning, waking up with Joel and
in the fetal
Tess
position,
both looking at her. And they talked about on the podcast that they had to think about when you're the player, you don't have the force stop on you. You are in control of where the narrative goes, how long you're running with a thing, and so that night mission is just go.
Yeah,
and things are discussed in between the action beats, but you're pursuing all these action beats and everything. They had
There's no resting.
They had to come up with the way that television works. Craig Mason describes it really well. Is that you have to. Every episode is a chance to re-engage with the audience, so they also have to buy back in every time.
Yeah.
And you have to bring them along for the ride. So not the opening of this episode, but the opening with our crew is picking up again with this fresh idea of how would they handle that night. And I thought that was a really great interpretation for Joel and Tess to both be like on their guard, watching Ellie nervous because they've just learned this information instead of what you would get in a video game, which is the constant progression of move to the next place, move to the next place while you're discussing this.
That is actually a good point because, like, again, like people all play God of War. There's very little resting. You're just constantly kind of moving until you hit a big cutscene. And I didn't actually think about that. I was like, oh yeah, like there's not much resting until you hit like a big like pivotal scene where everything changes because like you're always just constantly moving and like you do need to like rest and talk. Like not everything has to be you climbing up a ladder explaining your entire life to somebody. You could sit down and talk to them.
The pacing of a video game to a television show is very different, and I think it's one of the things that made this very clear to me that this works better as an adaptation on television rather than the film that was initially thought of, like turning Last of Us into a film.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have had opportunities for things like this. Phai, thoughts on that?
Sorry, I was just so captivated by your speech. No. You pretty much nailed it. amazing production and attention to detail. Okay.
I love.
Sorry.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted to throw to you if you had the opportunity to bounce off that. I think that what I do want to do, like, let's talk about everything else that happened in the episode, but let's real quick talk about the thing that's absolutely not in the game at all.
Oh,
which is the stuff in Indonesia.
Ibu Ratna, the mycologist professor or whatever.
Yeah, the stuff in Indonesia that essentially gives us like a potential patient zero area. Not the person we see, but like an area where patient zero occurred.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows? Like, there could have been something else before they even caught wind of this. We don't know. But like an implication that this might be where it started.
Yeah, ground zero. Yeah.
What did you guys think of this scene? Because I thought this was there was something I know you were sitting next to me when it happened, when she says bomb this whole city, and I was like, oh my god, like I know how bad this thing is. I played the game. Yeah. But something about a person coming to that realization and having to say that, like knowing how many innocent people are going to die, and like we're fucked. We are fucked if we don't do
bomb this
right
city
now
and everybody in it.
Oh god!
And then she immediately starts crying. Is like, can I please go home? Because like I know the world's about to end. That was so chilling.
Yes,
that was like it's so eerie, and like her performance was that actor was so good, because like having to keep your calm, knowing this is the end of the world, knowing this exact thing could potentially have happened. You know, we saw it from the 60s. Like this thing did happen, and it's like 14 people doesn't sound like a lot. That's a world ender right there.
I'll even go so far as to say that I don't think in any zombie television or film media we've ever gotten a scene quite like it, where you have a person who knows this is the worst thing.
Yeah.
And you must take this action immediately, and is still living in like the it happening world.
I'll tell you
and
what.
Saying like, I know what I'm saying, and I'm saying we're all dead, and everyone in this city is dead, and we all need to take the bullet so that maybe the whole world doesn't die. But honestly, we're probably screwed anyway.
Yeah. This is like the only comparison I can even think of, and it's not a scientist. It's the beginning of Dawn of the Dead when it's happening.
Yeah.
Because like we don't. You think we get more of that in zombie movies, but it's usually it's always after. It's always like you're just in it. So like you don't get it like as it's happening very often.
You almost never have a person who's looking at it at like as unpreventable.
Yeah.
Like there's always someone who's coming at it at the beginning of the zombie thing as like, this could be isolated, this could be this thing, this could be. It's not usually on the. This is it.
You
like,
don't immediately see
this
it
is
for
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
That opening scene. I hope. I have to imagine that is going to be how every episode is going to start. It's going to be whether it's a short sequence or a long sequence, it is going to be some well, actually, I wonder.
I don't think so.
No,
I think that's something that they wanted here to, because what it informs us of is it has that direct connection of building upon what is this, because in a very real way, we are reintroduced / properly introduced to the concept of what the cordyceps do to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And
very much how could this have happened moment.
Right, yeah, that happens through through the mycologist, but it happens through the clickers later. It happens. It's like why all of this episode makes sense the way that it does, because everything in the previous episode doesn't quite completely go to answering the cordyceps question. Like you have the setup scene.
Yeah.
We have a little glimpse of some of the stuff, but we don't have the full picture yet. This is giving you the full picture. So I don't think every episode going forward is going to do this.
Well, we do know next episode has some pre-stuff with the character who's central to that.
Yes, I think that whole episode is just going to be like a roll through villain
that makes
story.
sense.
I don't think we're going to get like a separate scene that's before.
Yeah.
And then after, I think we're going to get just a roll through of like many snippets through that story.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
A very HBO. This episode's about X character.
Yeah.
Start with a flashback, and it doesn't have to be all related to the fungus. It could be flashbacks to different characters that will be in that episode.
Right.
Yeah. I continued to love Tess. I now that we're talking about episode 2, so like we all knew this was going to happen, but like again, the strength of having this be a TV show is like you can cut out all the gameplay and just focus on character stuff and focus on. I don't know if it was the official podcast that said it or one of the 3 other Last of Us podcasts that I'm listening to.
Right, yeah.
All the podcasts I listen to are also reviewing it.
Last of Us,
that this world has like broken down Joel and Tess, but Ellie and her potential cure and hope has like awoken something.
That is the companion.
That's the companion. Okay, has awoken something in Tess that she didn't know was there for a long time. That she was a broken person like Joel, but she does see. Joel doesn't see it yet, but she sees. Oh, there is a future, and even if it's not for me, there's a future that I could see that I want to help get this person.
Which is the same thing that we were given in the game. I think it's just expanded on.
It's significantly expanded. I think, yeah.
I think what they've done a good job of in the show is like really shown the like what this episode is for Ellie, because like Ellie up to this point, like there's less of this in the game, I think, just because of the nature of how long we're with them before we lose Tess in the game. There's a little bit of banter between Ellie and Joel. There's a little bit of the kernels of early something bonding there.
Yeah.
There's no room for that in this show up to this point. Ellie has not bonded with Joel. Losing Tess is her losing the person she cares about in this trio.
Yeah.
And now she's left with the guy who kind of wants to kill her and doesn't give a shit about her, and the person who she doesn't want to be with and distrust. So I really like that. They even talk about in the companion podcast, they left the shot at the end of this episode very specifically to leave like an audience that doesn't know better that Joel could just be walking back to the QZ.
Oh yeah,
just leave her.
Just leave her there. Yeah,
just be done with the mission.
Show ends episode 2.
Right. Yeah. There's like leave it in that place where how does Joel feel in this moment?
Yeah.
Speaking on that note, they also talk about in that. I think this is a cool note that Druckmann and Mason were talking about coming up with a scene. So the original cold open for this episode actually wouldn't have been in Indonesia. It was going to be Tess's story before everything went wrong, and we were going to learn about her husband and her son both turning, and her killing her husband but leaving her son in the basement, and kind of always having a nightmare about her son still being alive through the spores.
She couldn't kill her kid
in the basement because she couldn't kill him.
He's potentially like a clicker somewhere in a basement right now. So like it's years later. Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, which would have been really interesting, but I think they made a good choice with the way that they decided to go about it. I think there's enough there with Tess that you don't need that. You don't need to know that to get the impression that Tess was a mom.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't think that they need to spell it out for you to feel like Tess was a mom at some point.
You feel the familial vibes between them.
Yes.
Yeah. Once they start bonding together,
It definitely somebody Joel would have a kindred spirit with is a parent.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, why would he connect so much with Tess? Because like a similar pain.
Yes,
that makes a lot of sense. I to what you were saying earlier, like we knew we were coming up to this point, but I guess there was a part of me that was like, maybe it won't be episode 2. Maybe it'll be episode 3.
Yeah,
like we'll get a little bit more Anna Tess action, but it's like that wouldn't have made sense. Like they'd be dragging out the story.
It's true. Yeah.
It's amazing how much like I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I'm still like,
and that's the great
I hate to see her go
again. Like, and that's a fun thing of like, some things are like one for one. Like the Sarah in the soldier bit, but like the Tess dying bit is completely different than the game. And I think it's a better version in the show. Because if you remember in the game, she just she holds off some Fedra dudes who are coming because all the gun nonsense that you had with Robert, they're just coming to get you for Robert stuff, and that stuff's so inconsequential to the story. Yeah. So like this being like a group of clickers that you yourself attracted them here, so you're gonna and then Tess is gonna be the one to save them. Mm-hmm. It makes so much more sense. It feels more like not that the game wasn't sad, it's obviously still great, but like it feels more impactful. And then you get that incredibly disgusting kiss, which like
I mean, come on, he looked like a real fun guy.
Man, the internet is losing their mind over that kiss. Yeah, people hate it. Oh boy.
Oh.
So like the idea being that part of the cordyceps were already starting to take control of her.
Yeah.
That's why it was recognizing something in her. So like her still flicking the lighters, like the last glimmers of where her humanity is.
Don't you see like doesn't she very quickly do like a hand thing? Like before any of this, like when she's talking to Joel, doesn't she do like a hand?
Yeah, there's a little jitter thing.
Okay, yeah.
And Joel
it's when she's showing Ellie, trying to show off the thing, and then like holds the lighter and is like,
okay, yeah. So
that was
affection is happening to her. Yeah.
So real quick, that was so smart. Like, what a great. This is another like I think great change from the show is showing having Ellie get bit too.
Yeah.
So we see like this happened at the same time, and Ellie is a normal bite.
Yep.
And Tess has already turned
Whack.
into this full
Whack.
infection thing, and that's Tess standing there making the argument like, Joel, this is real.
Yeah.
Look at this difference. This is a real thing. This is happening.
And her line of like, because again we talked about last week how like they are together, but they're not like in love relationship together. It's almost more like a partnership. And Tess confirms it, saying like, I never asked you to care the way that I cared, or whatever she says in that moment. Like, I never asked you to feel the way that I felt, and that's gutting. That's so gutting, especially like being with someone who's not the same, who doesn't have the same feelings as you, and like you just live that life. That's really rough. But like Tess is like, I'm laying it all on the line, Joel. Like, if you're gonna do anything for me, do this thing, please do this thing. Let there be hope in the world. Save just one person if you can. That is
save who you can.
Save who you can. That is so beautiful. Again, like that game is so stunning, and I'm like, man, this is just such a gorgeous adaptation of basically doing the same thing, but in different ways. Still, I loved it. I thought it was super impactful.
Getting back to your point of like, you know, the changes, because they are occurring differently, but the impact is still the same, which is what, you know, they've thankfully understood, probably with no small help due to Neil Druckmann being there. But yeah, no, in that moment, even with the bite with Ellie, it's how do we convey that this is a real thing? In the game, it was her just showing Joel that she can walk into a room with spores, mask off, and be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then this one with Tess being attacked by actually they're runners, not clickers. When the infected go charging into that room instead of Fedra, it's still the same situation of, regardless of who's about to burst in here, you need to get away because it's danger coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and whether or not it's Fedra or infected, that's what still gets us to the very next chapter seamlessly, with it even still being different.
That's true.
Yeah, I think it works so much better because it asks more questions than it would answer for why Fedra would be there in the terms of the show. Like, why is Fedra chasing them?
Yeah. They would have
the idea that they would be willing to stretch their resources so much to catch two people
smugglers
who smuggle stuff. Like, they know they have smugglers, and like,
so they were looking for them. This was a rendezvous for fireflies, and
that's true.
Right? Yeah, you could run it that way.
But like you said, spreading resources for just like a rendezvous point that they think might be there.
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking in terms of like in the game, because Fedra's still pursuing them in the game. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, it would make more sense to say like, oh, they caught on to like Firefly stuff, but it's like Fedra almost like they care about the Firefly stuff, but not enough, I think, to send their guys like way far out there.
No, they don't
not
go.
Not in the context of what the show gave us.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the game, I think they were able to justify it in the fact that because the Fireflies are such like, yes, in their eyes, a terrorist group.
Yeah,
right.
You know, any kind of quelling of like a meeting, you know, especially if it's a big rendezvous where they think a bigger figurehead's going to be there, they're probably going to want to like chase that down and like shut it off. In the game. And so they weren't in pursuit of Joel and Tess or Ellie. They just happened to be there and were like, oh, there's still people here at this Firefly rendezvous. You're Firefly.
Right. Yeah, I think it does work better for this version to leave this entire episode focused on the infected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the infected are what end up taking Tess. It works better in the sense of like Tess being bitten already and like being able to do that concept of also the kiss again, speaking to their concept of like, this is bad love.
Mm-hmm.
We got into spoilers fast here.
Huh?
We got into spoilers fast here.
Nah.
Spoilers for the episode.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I'm talking about for Tess.
Yeah.
Because she gets infected, and still that idea of like the infected connecting with her.
I don't know why in my mind I was thinking like we were going to save like the ending of the episode till the end of this episode.
Oh no,
no.
Just avoiding game spoilers. That's
yeah.
all we're doing. Anything
Cool.
past this episode point,
Yeah.
we're avoiding.
Yeah.
I think that it just executes really well on keeping like an audience that's very new to all this totally focused on the infected and what the infected are and how they function in this world and what that means. They made a great point. I know you heard this too, that they had to go in for a reshoot in this episode because they did not properly convey that clickers couldn't see.
Yes.
And they were like, it was just so obvious to us. And the executive producer for the show from HBO came back and said, it's not clear enough that the clickers can't see. So they had to work in the reshoots for the scene of Joel, signing everything.
So that's why that clicker looked a little extra CG.
I mean, they probably did a CG overlay anyway.
Yeah, no, there's just something about the way the arm like looked, and when like kind of like.
I'll tell you what, there's one shot where you can tell like that one is CG, but for a lot of the time it is mostly practical, and it looks real good,
hella good.
It looks so good. It's like the contortioning just like
the people
makes my stomach.
The people who captured the movements from the game versions very well.
Yeah, and there's a behind the scenes.
That's what they did. They cast fans to be
the
zombies.
There you go. I mean, it makes sense.
There's a behind the scenes from the game that I saw on Twitter of the voice actress doing the unchanged scream that she does for the clicker noise, and it's you can't believe a human being can make that noise scary. It's awful. It's awful. They made a scarier noise less scary by transforming it because like wow, that's just a human could do that. It's awful. Then you gotta add some clicks. Love it. Super spooky. The tension was great. There's a great mention of like the bloaters. I still hope we see a bloater. I hope that's not their cheeky way of like, hey, are there big ones that explode? Blah blah blah. I hope we just see it.
We know we will.
There's that school. We
saw it.
It's in the trailer. We just don't know if what they're gonna throw if they throw.
The trailer. It's not a spoiler. Then.
The last trailer for The Last of Us, like one of the last shots is one of the bloaters rising up. From
when we watched
ground.
the behind the scenes thing after the episode, there was a model of a bloater, and I'm like, oh, I hope that's not just for fun.
No,
so
they're here.
Good.
I do like the way that they brought that up, like this like special infected concept when they're walking across the highway, and they both like shrug off like, not the bloaters.
Don't be ridiculous.
That's crazy. And then it's like, oh, you wait.
They're like, yeah, but what about the clickers? And they're like, don't bring up. Don't bring those. Those are real.
Also, I think they're doing a really good job. They were doing a really good job of threading in what the game couldn't have at the time because Druckmann hadn't created the story for it of the story of Left Behind of Riley.
Oh yeah,
which we won't go into details about, but like they're telling you about this idea.
I'll tell you what. Episode 1, Marley mentions Riley.
Yeah,
you see Ellie get emotional in this episode. Tess asks, "Do you have any family, a boyfriend?
Were you out there by yourself?
Were you out there by yourself? Is Oregon someone come find
you?"
Where
were you?
No family, no boyfriend. Definitely no boyfriend.
And she's clearly lying. And she's clearly lying when she's answering the question, were you out there by yourself? So like
in the mall.
You're getting that story.
Yeah, and again, like the trailers, they show her with a little friend her age, so like we'll see some of that in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's like I feel like just like 15 minutes of them just like straight up just walking through the apocalypse, and all of it looks so good.
It really does.
Like just so much beautiful foliage. Like they go through like what looks like a bar. It has like green patio furniture and green pillows that's just like in the apocalypse. I'm like, man, this is like it looks so good.
Importantly, the
frog on a piano. You love to see it.
The bombing concept that's introduced in the first scene and how it comes back later when Ellie brings up that this looks like walking on
the
weird
moon
version of the moon.
Yeah.
And Tess says that the bombing worked here, it didn't in other places, answers your entire question you could have as an audience member of like, why is there able to be a QZ here but not other places? It's because the bombing actually worked in Boston for a period of time, enough for them to get a controlled area.
Yeah. And then they explain, because they see a bunch of infected on the ground, like writhing. And they're like, yeah, like, like people come through the city, which raises the infected, which brings more in. So over time, the cities just become more and more populated over time.
Right.
Like they used to be okay, and they're slowly getting worse, which is a bummer.
Because more and more people are having to move to metropolitan areas looking for supplies or help or assistance or whatever.
More scavenging.
They can't stay on the exteriors in the rural areas.
Exactly. You got to go into the dense, those dense fungal. That's fungi.
Yeah.
Don't know how to farm. Can't stay out there.
Yeah.
Try your chances with ration cards. And
great acknowledgement of the game mechanics. We got Joel moving a big old locker in front of a doorway.
100%. Yep. The fake loading screen happening in real time. More backpack
the
stuff.
tape of Tess's ankle, the exact sound of
100%.
healing.
Yeah, exactly.
So happy.
The reference to finally it's episode 2.
Yeah.
A reference to Ellie's inability to swim, which is a great joke.
I definitely thought we were getting a raft sequence.
And Joel,
episode 2. I thought it was happening.
The Joel hop down when he's like, "Are you kidding?" And
she's
like, "Well, what?" And he's like, "No."
It's actually the exact same. Granted, it's out of order from the game, but basically, it's like, I can't swim, and then everyone's like, yo, we can walk.
It's the same exact dialogue because I watched a Twitter side by side of when she's like ding ding, the concierge, and that's just Ashley Johnson doing her thing there, and I'm like, and then you got little Bella Ramsey doing her thing. I'm like, man, it's so weird because again, so many things get adapted, like comic books and video games, but none of it is ever one-to-one like this is. This is the fear of oh, you're just making the exact same thing, but they're not really. It's the same script, but it feels fresh because again, it's just it's a different coat of paint. And it's just I knew it was going to be good because of the creative team, but I'm enjoying it so much just because I love post-apocalyptic zombie things, and this is a really, really good version of one of these.
Right,
love it.
I like Troy Baker's approach when he spoke with Pedro about being Joel, and it's just no, don't try to copy me. Show me if you learn something new. Show me about this character.
Yeah, it's so funny because again, the person who made the game is writing and directing the show, but the stars of it were told don't play the game. So neither Pedro or Bella played the game. They don't know anything about the game.
Well, they did. They broke promise.
Well, they did. They didn't say, "Hey, I read a couple interviews where they didn't do it initially. Maybe they did afterwards." I don't know.
They eventually did. Maybe after they did a few things. I'm not gonna do a full speculation. It's more. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna believe them and say at least early on in the filming they didn't do that because but when you have the same script and you have the director of the game, it's gonna feel similar. It's gonna feel similar. So the things that need to be similar are there, but you can. But again, we've talked about this episode, so much can change. Whether it's small, minute stuff or big stuff the test stuff.
Just a real quick note, kind of going back to episode 1, because I was talking about the worries about making Joel too heroic kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I didn't touch on. I was focusing on what was making me worried about, but I didn't touch on what wasn't making me worried about it, which is the focus on Joel telling them, no, we're not stopping for anybody, even when both Tommy and Sarah wanted to.
Yeah.
And Joel's like, nope, we stay on what we're doing. Don't worry about them.
Look
Someone will come
my
along.
own. Yeah.
Exactly. Which plays away from that kind of heroicness.
I mean, this episode, he says you're talking this little girl has a life ahead of her.
Mm-hmm.
Joel's ready to shoot this girl as soon as he sees her that she's got bit again. I'm so excited for the budding the wolf and cub relationship to grow because they're both at zeros right now. They were at a 1 with Tess, but now that Tess is gone, they're starting at 0. Right. And it's just going to be really fun and really sad because we know what's coming.
And even then, we're keeping this mentality that right now in the show, which I don't. Phai, you can correct me if I'm wrong because I think you'd remember best. But in the game, the intention when he gets to Bill is not to offload Ellie onto Bill. That wasn't the intention. It is the intention right now.
Yeah.
That's what Tess presents to him in this episode is offload her and they'll take care
and
of it.
And then I think he's just going to get info from Bill. Because he's like, no, I got to do this on my own.
Yeah, he was looking for supplies. It was like a supply checkpoint in the game, I think, to carry on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Where he was actually trying to get Ellie. But in this, at least earlier in the episode, Tess says, go and dump her off on them, and then you can be out. You can be done. And that can still be on Joel's mind at this point.
I bet, because we know we're getting flashback stuff before the apocalyptic stuff, but I have to assume that there'll be the journey to get to Bill's, that he'll have the realization that I have to do this on my own. The journey getting there, it's I'm going to drop her on Bill, but by the time he gets there, it's no, I have to do this on my own.
Or something will happen while there.
Yeah.
For the show.
my prediction, because it seems like they're making some narrative changes to that encounter, is that they're going to go there because if we recall at the end of episode 1, the radio starts playing. It's playing 80s.
Danger.
Which means trouble. Yeah.
Right.
Trouble, danger. So I'm thinking in the preview we saw for the episode where we see Bill telling was it Frank?
Yes.
Yeah, telling Frank to call Joel. He's probably the one who's about to send out the signal because something bad's going down, and then maybe Frank will get lost somewhere, and then Bill's just like, "Where is he? He called you days ago," and it's like, "Oh, it's like, I guess now we gotta do this thing," and then they find out stuff, and then, I can't get into all of that. That's all going to be potential spoilers. Anyways,
remind me. Doesn't Bill have isn't it like Bill's town? Doesn't he have his own little? It's not like he's the mayor of it, but doesn't he have like he hangs out with a bunch of people?
Full fortress. Okay. Setting up traps everywhere. Storage points.
Yeah, I don't want to go into it because again, that's the next episode. But I remember, Bill has a zone, or something like that. That's what I remember. So I think maybe we'll see some stuff that we didn't see in the game, which is cool.
I mean, it's Ron Swanson. He's the Doomsday Prepper.
Yeah, well, at that point, we're talking about the preview for the next episode, which that was at the end of this episode. So not too spoilery for what's coming up, but we see younger Joel with younger Bill.
Yes.
So some implication of this being either a earlier in their thing, or possibly Joel on his way to Boston for the first time from Texas.
Oh yeah, okay. For the
first means we might have Tommy and Joel, meeting Bill or something like that. We might be getting. I think that part of what the show is going to do is give us just a little bit more of Joel's journey from A to B.
Yeah.
Before where we pick up with him in the game, post Sarah, but before the mission with Ellie.
Yeah. That makes sense. Oh man,
the favor that he might owe Joel.
Wait, what? Say that one more time.
We might see the origins of the favor that Bill
yes, that's a great point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's something that could happen. I can't praise the production quality and design on the clickers and the infected in general any higher than it possibly should be. It's amazing.
Yeah. The tendrils are just such a great, disgusting idea. Even once you're dead, you can pull them out and they'll still try to reach for you because they're trying to find something living to grasp onto. Just horrible.
Terrible. Thank you for reminding me, actually, because the tendrils in place of spores, again, a dramatic change, but still creates that same. It still can create an environment that is tense. It can still generate a tense environment. It's you don't know where you want to step. You don't want to go into dark places where.
Right.
Yeah. And you see them retaking over bodies.
Right.
That have been chilling on the ground for a bit. That's awful. That is such a cool idea.
Druckmann himself said that he was mad that they hadn't put it in the game before.
That'll be in a third one. Watch. This new tendril is crazy.
But it's based off the reality of how fungi work, that how far they can communicate with each other. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's a whole neural network. Yeah.
It's so funny because it feels like a game mechanic. Mm-hmm. It does. It feels like a video game thing, but it's not. It's something they made up completely.
When Last of Us 3 is an open world game and you step on one vine, and then in this part of the map, there's a horde coming your way.
Yeah,
we'll know where they got it from.
Days
Gone for the PlayStation 4.
That'll be important in the multiplayer.
Oh God! You just reminded me that's still coming out. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I have one last little point. I love that Joel just every once in a while looks at his watch. Because it's generally after Ellie says some shit, and then he's just like,
"Oh wow, that's actually a really good detail you noticed there."
I think he does it once or twice. He does at least once that I noticed. But every once in a while, I'll just glance at his watch, and I'm like, yeah, you didn't forget.
That's very subtle narrative buildup there. That's because now he's associating Ellie with memories of Sarah.
Yeah, right. Someone he has to take care of. That's clear. You ain't as good as her. You'll never be her.
There's a whole different relationship that's going to happen out of that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, all the stuff of Boston. I think they're executing on this journey very, very well. I'm super impressed. I think Anna Torv was great.
Yeah.
Very happy that she got to play the role of Tess for these 2 episodes because I think she was awesome.
Excellent.
I'm sad to see her go, but I know that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a little behind the scenes of the flashback if they don't.
Flashback, little something. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
If like near like the end of the season, there's like one more flashback that we see or something. Who knows? More Torv is always good.
Yeah.
More Torv.
More Torv.
More Torv. Torv.
Pi, you got any final thoughts on episode 2 of Infected? Of the last of We?
Love the zombies. Love the tendrils. Love the changes. Love the similarities. It's perfect. So yet again.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Let's.
Any final thoughts from you, folks?
I mean, nothing that I haven't already.
No,
said.
yeah, I just want to make sure.
Because it's just a great episode.
It's true.
I think that again, like, the very excellent tension scene of, again, like, we know how the story goes, but it doesn't change the fact that I think it's super well executed. Of Joel reloading batteries and ammo. And then turning the flashlight.
Oh my god, with his broken hand,
right there,
having to reload with a broken hand,
and just holding that light on it. I thought that was really great.
Oh god, yeah. Hold on, real quick. I'm coming back in real quick. Sorry, that clicker scene is so well done. Because again, I think of playing that game and I'm just like watching over, looking at cover, and the clickers are walking by, and I'm like, man, they did such a perfect, like, you want to know what The Last of Us feels like? It's this, and it's awful, and you hate it, and then when you exit the building, you feel so good. Until you run into Raiders.
Wait for us to get to
We've seen the raptor scene. Everyone recreates it from Jurassic Park. It still kills.
It's good 20 years later.
I'm waiting for us to get the bottle toss that distracts the clicker.
Oh, I definitely thought a brick was happening this episode.
I'm sure we'll get one at some point. There's a lot of stuff that still occur.
I'm so excited for my first Jesus Joel. Because we kind of got one with the old lady in episode 1, but I'm not counting that. Joel. I'm waiting for a Jesus Joel. Ready.
All right.
Soon.
Now we'll transition into talking about where the show's going. We'll talk about a little bit of spoilers for the game. Not too much. No. Just gonna talk a little bit in relation to what we know is coming up.
I've got full predictions.
And just make guesses about how it's going to come out.
Okay, so now that we're here, game spoiler stuff. So yeah, I want to talk about Billstown more because like I didn't want to go too much into it. Right. I remember specifically like, all right, we're going to go to Bill's, but when we get there, something really bad happened, right? Isn't that what happens? Like you get there and shit's already bad?
No, it's more like we encountered Bill when he's still in the midst of his lifestyle, with the one change of like, oh, now my partner's not here, but it's still business as usual. Okay. Make sure the traps are set, make sure my stash is good.
Okay, isn't he like more grim and gruff because Frank's not there?
Yes.
Yeah. So. He's very much of like, I put trust in somebody once, and now it's blowing up in my face again. Or not again, it's blowing up in my face. I'm back to not trusting anybody ever again.
Do you think we're gonna get Joel caught in that upside down trap?
Oh yes.
Right off the bat.
Dude, Neil Druckmann did not make this show without knowing he was not gonna put like one of the best moments in that game in that show. No way. Oh my god, I'm so ready for it. That is such a good scene. Yeah. Oh, real quick, going back to the museum scene, I love how like it wasn't a one shot and you're done. Like, just like your game, like, you're running and you're shooting and you're missing and you're hitting him in the stomach and you're not dropping him. It's not just like one shot and you're dead. I'm like, the stakes are real. Like, they are real for every single character. And yeah, I'm just so excited of like all the stuff that I don't know that's gonna happen with Bill and Frank. Y'all, I saw something that they kind of tweeted themselves out. Do you remember? There's like it's not even a side quest. It's like a side. It's like side stuff that you read about Ishi, the sailor. Do you remember this stuff, Phai, at all?
Sorry, what?
Ishi, the sailor guy. I think his name's Ishi. There's a boat. It's environmental storytelling. It's all environmental storytelling. And it's a Captain Ishi, and how he helped people, and he had this boat, and like you follow his journey of how he escaped the people all through this island.
Right, and with the letters, yes.
Yeah, through letters that you read like throughout like the world. Like you can miss this entirely, and they're putting his entire shit into the story, and you're gonna see his shit happen. I'm like, that is the dream.
Oh.
That is some people's favorite like story inside a game that no one knows about is the story of Captain Ishii and his badass journey of trying to survive the apocalypse on his boat. And I'm just so excited that they mentioned like, yeah, Ishii's coming, guys, and I'm like, oh yeah, nobody's left unturned. Every character gets an arc.
That's like the Blackwater Bay inside of the Watchmen. Is that what it's called?
Tales of the Black Freighter.
Yeah, Black Freighter.
Yeah. Blackwater Bay is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
That'll be really cool.
Wow, actually, I didn't know that that's what they were doing, was expanding on the behind the scenes lore that you just find through Inferno.
And I don't know how much that is, but like the fact that
It's probably an opener, like our mycologist in this
Yeah.
episode.
and
And then like some little piece from that whole thing is gonna relate
because
to
we
our
find
main
his
characters.
boat,
Yeah.
that has like documents of like the shit that I've been through, y'all. So that's gonna be really cool. I'm
Anyways,
just like
back to Bills.
I'm so excited to them have to like I'm imagining them like going through like Mission Impossible music like to like avoid the landmines and the booby traps, like dun 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 dun. Nick Offerman's gonna kill it. I've already heard that the third episode is so good. It's like this is the one that they're gonna like nominate for all the awards and stuff, and I'm like, I'm ready. Chernobyl sweet. I'm ready for The Last of Us sweet.
Okay, so
I'm ready.
I'm very excited about the addition of Frank and what that's going to do for Bill's story. I'm excited to see all this. Do you think we get a one and done with Bill, or do you think Bill extends into the episode past this?
I'm pretty sure he is a one and done. Unfortunately,
I think
also because the episode's like 90 minutes long.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a packed episode, and I'm going to make a prediction.
Wait,
think,
what? It's gonna be 90 minutes?
It's not. It's longer than an hour long. I know. I just know that.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
So I think this next episode will be the end of the Bill story. I think, in fact, this next episode is going to end with us in the vehicle getting to another place, and it's going to be the guy in the street who's pretending to ask for help.
Is that
car
the
crashing,
end of
and
the episode?
Yes, I think that's going to be. I think the truck crashing right after that beat when they take the shots is going to be the cliffhanger.
That's so spicy. That is perfect. That is actually a perfect. And you open up with them getting pulled out and shit.
Yeah.
That's actually that sounds good. Correct me, remind me. Don't we find Frank like didn't he hang himself? Don't we find Frank's dead body?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna see some.
So-
It's gonna get so sad
No, that's gonna be because
because we're gonna like.
it wasn't sad in the game. It was sad through implication.
Yeah.
But in this one, if they're doing the full flashback of the relationship between Bill and Frank, and then suddenly to come across his body, where it's like throughout the entire episode, where the fuck is Frank?
Yeah.
Joel is there. Where's
I
Frank?
firmly believe we're all about to be weeping. It's gonna be tragedy.
I'm excited for some of the humor we're gonna get. We already got a glimpse in the preview, like this ain't an Arby's. Well, yeah, an Arby's was a restaurant. They charged people, it wasn't free.
It's just Nick Offerman being Nick Offerman.
Love it. Hey, he can do whatever he wants. I'm always happy.
He just happens to fit the motif of Bill.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a little dismissive of Offerman's talent.
I'm
think
kidding.
I think he's going to be doing a lot with the role.
Yeah. Let's see. I had something and I lost it.
Well, while you try to reclaim it, mind if I go into like my narrative prediction of how this episode is going to go?
Go for it, baby.
Basically, what I'm picturing happening is that Joel's going there with the intention of offloading Ellie, but then finds Bill out of sorts because Frank's missing, or it's been a hot minute, so it's like, hey, do this for me, maybe we'll consider it. Then we find Frank, and then it's just like, I'm not going anywhere, man. I can't. I'm dealing with too much. You can take Ellie, but we were working on this car. And you've been wanting a car this whole time to get to your brothers, and so off you go.
Yeah.
And that's how we get seamlessly into the Tommy arc.
Yeah, and then it could still,
or at least into the next chapter leading.
And it could still end with the car crash and everything. Yeah.
Right, for sure. We know Riley and the Left Behind stuff is going to be a flashback at some point. I want to know, when do you think, because it's not in the original game's narrative, when do you think they put that in? What moment in the original game is the right moment to insert that?
I think
I have an idea.
I think it'll be after Joel goes down.
Mhm.
I think it'll be that moment because she thinks she's gonna lose Joel just like
Mhm.
she lost Riley.
Right.
So I think it'll be probably episode 6 or 7. That's not the halfway point of.
I'm not focused on episode numbers, but just like where in the story relative do you think it is?
I think it would be after Joel's super bad accident.
Sure.
What I'm picturing is that Joel's accident is going to be a cliffhanger, and then in the next episode, it's Riley and
Okay, yeah.
I could be
but
wrong,
we had the same.
but I can see exactly.
idea.
I can see it fitting there, but it will be like everyone tense. Is Joel dead?
That is absolutely the scene I'm the most excited for the internet to see.
And then you drag it out for as long as you do with the whole flashback episode.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I wonder if it's going to be the entirety of winter, and that once Joel's accident has occurred, it's Ellie on her own doing all the stuff Ellie has to do, and interspersed with that story are the pieces, because I can't see them reducing Riley's story in the Left Behind to a 10-minute opener.
That's a good point.
But I also can't see them dedicating an entire 45 minutes of an episode to it.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to cut it up. And
That's a good point.
You probably cut it up with Ellie doing
her
winter activity.
We do spend like
same motivation.
We do spend like 45 minutes hunting a rabbit, don't we? So like they could definitely just like intersperse that with like Riley stuff. Absolutely. Because the winter stuff, that's like, oh my god, you just reminded me that like the stuff happened with David happens in the winter.
Yes.
I'm like, this game, oh my god.
Sparkz, like you said, like they could do that thing where it's like it's flashbacks juxtaposed to how she's surviving on her own without Joel.
Yeah, I think the same way that like we had that little glimpse where taking out the Fedra guy was Joel also taking out the guy who shot Sarah to him. We'll have a similar feeling of taking out David is Ellie taking out what happens to Riley. So I think that we'll see that same kind of transpose of parallel emotion and that kind of stuff. I think that might be where we're heading with where they incorporate that.
So excited to meet Dave. I want what actor is playing David? That poor guy has to play the meanest, grossest man. Oh man.
So Troy Baker has a role. I'm not sure if he's playing an underling of David's. It would be really interesting if he was David himself.
He's definitely not David. We know who David's playing. Like, but he is like the third guy behind him, and I'm like, oh, you're a bad guy, Troy Baker. You're a bad boy. That's so, man. This is like one of the few times where I'm like, man, I know this whole show is going to be good, and I know all the beats, and all the big beats are going to be great. So it's really exciting to be like get to the great big beats, and then have all the stuff in the middle be like different. While still maintaining the core of what it is.
Yeah.
Just excellent stuff. Good job. Hubba. HBO. Hubba.
We do know now also that we are getting the second season. Not that was in doubt, I think, but it has been officially confirmed as of today.
Yeah. I will, because you have to play The Last of Us soon, because I unfortunately can guarantee you will get spoiled on something before the first season will end. Just because the amount of people talking about the entire franchise just open, like everybody's played it, is kind of insane.
I mean, like, it'd be a bit of a bummer, but like,
I'm scared for you, man.
I'm boo boo the fool if something like does happen, because I'm the one who stepped away. And finished the game.
It's
so like
it has been.
I don't blame it if it happens, but it hasn't happened up to this point.
No, I know.
So like,
but also
I'll probably
like
be okay.
That's true. I firmly believe in Phai. Like, how long that second game is. That is a 2-season game.
They've already said
they are not. Yeah, like we talked about it last episode, but like there's no way they do that 25-hour game in one season. If anything, it's perfectly made for 2 seasons. It's perfectly made for 2 seasons. There's literally a middle cutoff that you can make the third season.
I would say, to be honest with you, I would have argued the same thing for the first game. I initially like. I have faith they've made a good show.
Yeah.
I would have said that The Last of Us could have been 2 seasons, and I would have had the cutoff be like right after winter.
I don't think there's that much content after winter, to be honest. Not for a whole season. Last of Us 2 is it's God of War Ragnarok's way too long length. Like that is a stuffed.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was way too stuffed. That game does not need to be twice the length of the first Last of Us.
Well, like God of War Ragnarok length, I was like, I thought that game was really quick.
40 hours.
I meant if you just stick to the narrative. Really,
No,
it's
yeah,
40 hours.
No, yeah, that's all.
It's a pretty long.
It
game.
is
It
considerably
feels
longer
long
than the
because
first.
we can't help but want to do the side quests and get to know Atreus. We're
Oh, I
tangenting.
mean, like God of War is a franchise where I'm completionist, but honestly, so is Last of Us.
Yeah.
Last of
Gotta
Us.
get all the comic books.
I think one of the things I'm most encouraged by is I'm kind of excited about it because now I'm kind of excited to play the game because like whatever negativity I've heard about the game, the way I've heard that I'm not going to respond to it, and the things I do have faith are probably correct and I'm going to bounce off of. I feel like the show is an opportunity to fix.
That's true.
And rebalance some of those decisions. Like I've seen people talking about it because of what's in the content of the game, to the extent that I know without major spoilers, but I know the broad strokes of like what people rubbed up against. And it's going to be one of those rare things where I think this is going to be a great adaptation of the first game, and then it might be a superior adaptation of the story material from the second.
I certainly hope so because I don't know how you feel, Phai. I think the first game is significantly better than the second game. I like the second game a lot, but like just like with any sequel, like I think the highs are higher and the lows are significantly lower. So like
Go on.
There are some things that they just can't change that are part of that story that's just like core to it that I know rub me the wrong way no matter what. It's just like there's some things that they won't be able to change, but there are smaller things they can absolutely change. Like some of the side character stuff in the second game, they can throw half those characters away. I don't care.
Perhaps.
or make them better.
Make them better. That's the better option, actually.
I'll tell you what we should definitely do is before that second season comes out, I'll finish part 2.
You got 2 years.
I've got time. I will get that game finished. We should, right before that season drops, get together, talk about that game and what we think the show can do right and wrong by the game.
They'll remake it for the PS5 by the time it comes out, I bet.
Good God, the PS6. We'll see.
Yeah.
That game already looks like impossibly gorgeous.
It does. That is a stunning game.
Yeah, I played enough to say that game looks exceptional. Like, one of the reasons I did want to keep playing it was because it looks so good.
Yeah. Jesus, Joel.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I think that'll do it for this week.
Yeah.
We're going to try and keep this up on a weekly basis. I'm not going to promise that we're going to always be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, we know the story well enough to know that there should be enough every week that we can talk a bit about it.
Yeah.
Like
this
is not an unknown quantity where we're sitting here like I don't know if this week's episode of Miss Marvel is going to have enough for us to say anything.
Yeah, that's the thing about every chapter is like every chapter something big happens.
Yeah,
like I was like doing it in my brain, like oh my god, like literally every chapter something terrible happens, and I'm like,
and again, like
oh my god,
it really has cemented again. Like I think this episode in particular, that this needed to be a show and not a film, and it so much was the right way to go because you cut out so many. Like you cut out so many good characters.
It would be so
trim
fast.
them down to the point where like there's almost no point including them.
It would be you would lose Tess in like the first like 15 minutes.
I think you
with how fast a 2-hour movie would have to
go. I think you'd keep Bill, but you'd lose everybody else after that up until Tommy.
Oh my god, they would get rid of Sam and Henry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam and Henry would be gone. Very quickly.
Oh my god, I can't even. Now that I know that is like the Sam Raimi Last of Us exists in a
you
multiverse.
You basically only have like what we've had so far. You get Bill, then you go like through like
Bill is the middle act.
You deal with other rival people.
Yeah.
You get to David, and then you get to Tommy, and then you get to the end, and that's kind of it.
I'm like disgusted thinking about how fast that movie would be.
Right.
It would have to be like just like. Oh my god, no time for anything.
Or like at best, it's 2 films, and even then, like you're still probably losing Sam and Henry. You're probably losing a couple more things, and still just like stretching out the beats we just talked about.
Or they're included, but like they're not given actually any time to develop.
They're given even less to develop than they did in the original game, which was already. So
like oh my god, just thinking of the movie. Yeah, like you said, I think it would be the opening sequence. Early Boston and outside infected. They might they have to include Bill's just to get the car, but then they might cut Henry, they might cut Tommy,
I bet Tommy would be cut completely from it.
And you guys are thinking about it from the perspective of where we are right now. Realize that, like Sarah, that would have been 5 minutes.
That would have been 5 minutes.
How shitty would that have been?
Or they would have done the bullshit thing of like they just would have started in the apocalypse and then the flashback would have been like 45 minutes into the movie. Something awful.
All options are mistakes.
Yeah. Again, like a Sam Raimi directed Last of Us probably would have been cool, but like I'm so glad we're here. I'll get rid of some of the cool kooky angles for a great
it also does have me thinking that like generally when I think you're dealing with a narrative video game like this. Now we're not talking about like a Sonic the Hedgehog or a Pokemon game. When you're talking about something like this, and the characters that you meet along the way are so important and that they should be as relevant. A God of War would be another comparison. You have so many characters that they should have time to actually be full characters. In the more recent games, not the original trilogy. That should be a show. That is the correct way to go about it. It should be a show. A movie would not do it justice.
Yeah. I agree.
For sure. And Amazon was like, gimme.
Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, like after Lord of the Rings, like I know at least the God of War show is gonna look good. At least it'll look expensive. Hell yeah, they got that money.
Man. Rings of Power, baby.
I still haven't seen it.
Dude, I'm still riding high on it. I think about a particular ending of an episode a lot.
Is that the Mordor?
It's absolutely
the Mordor.
I think about that ending.
It's awesome.
A lot.
It's really cool. Yeah.
That last shot.
Check it out.
Coming in on Galadriel, I'm like,
his name's Sauron. Have you heard of him, lad? It's good stuff, Phai. Check it out. Good stuff.
I will eventually.
Yeah.
Currently watching so many other things.
No,
it's true. All right. Like I said, we're gonna try and keep this weekly. We'll probably keep to that pretty well. So check us out next week. Maybe not on Friday, maybe sooner, for the next episode of The Last of Us. We'll continue up with this show because we're quite happy with how it's turned out. You can find Ryan and I talking about all kinds of other stuff. We've got lots of other stuff on the feed. We've got our regular podcast episodes. We're about to talk about Jung-E for this week's podcast review, which is a Korean film from the director of Train to Busan. And then we're talking about the Scream franchise for the next couple weeks.
Woohoo! What's your favorite scary movie?
So check that stuff out. Where we're making Ben finally watch them.
Ooh.
Recently on the channel, or right around this time, we're having a pause menu quarterly. Our last quarterly for last year is finally coming out, where we talk about the games we played at the end of last year. So check that out. And we've got our Animation Station came out with a Puss in Boots Last Wish review from Brandon and I. So go check that out. There's a Willow Fake Nerds Watch coming up real soon. I know it's already recorded, so it's dropping in a few days.
Yep.
So check that out if you watch Willow. That's awesome. With Ben and Brandon, that's our other two hosts who are not us. And there's all kinds of other stuff, so just keep an eye out. All right.
FakeNerdPodcast.com. It's there.
Hi, where can people find you?
Places in Alaska mostly, but on social media, TikTok, Sugar Daddy Loot Drops, and that's LUTE for loot. I have only one video on there.
I cannot believe that is your TikTok handle.
You don't have to be a social media man if you don't want to be.
What?
You don't have to be. If you don't have to do your socials if you don't want to.
Sugar Daddy Loot Drops.
Come on, that's a great one. That's my
it is. That's why I'm like, I can't.
With a name like that, you should be using it.
You should have like a social media following with a name like that. That's the thing.
That's the hope. We'll find out.
It also looks like in our video, like Joel is wearing whatever is in your pants
like it's
right
a
now.
poncho.
Like it's a poncho. Joel's wearing a poncho.
It's his Jedi Survivor outfit.
There you go. Yeah, it's his pre-order bonus.
His poncho.
Pre-order poncho.
Remember when you can change outcasts in poncho?
God, I swear, if that's
a vibrant color.
If that's the same system in that second game, I'm gonna return it the second I buy it. Ponchos? What are we doing, America?
We gotta hide, man. A stealth system. Oh, like in Metal Gear Solid 3.
It's not as cool.
Did you play through that game, Phai? Did you play the Last Jedi video game? What was it?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Not yet, but I have it. It's on my list. I've already been playing.
Games coming out.
Your costume design is entirely based around like change the color and slight pattern of your poncho, and I'm like, what? Wow.
Yeah, it really made me want those collectibles.
there's a lot of cool customization,
like lightsaber shit, robot
or
shit.
your little droid, but like not the poncho thing. It did not fly. Okay. Anyway, that is.
I hope in part 2 it's like scarves. Like, wow, you get like a blue scarf for beating this boss.
Nah, fam, mittens.
Ryan, where can they find you?
Y'all can find me just loving scarves at DJ Tony Snark 616 all over the internet.
I hope all it is different color patterns of essentially what Obi-Wan wore that was not a Jedi robe, but was a Jedi robe. Because you're a Jedi in hiding.
You ain't fooling anybody.
Absolutely. Okay, anyway. You can find me just really enjoying the idea of the different colored ponchos at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. And until next time, stay fake nerds.
Do the outro! Do the outro!
Because we're live. My bad.